Good day everyone and welcome to our video discussion. Today, we'll be discussing about the types, characteristics, and identification of learners with disability with self-care. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so since our topic is all about difficulty with self-care, so what type of disability does difficulty with self-care belong? Is it in intellectual disability or in learning disability? Okay, so when we say difficulty with self-care class, meaning galisod ug atiman sa ilang kaugalingon, right? So basically speaking, this type of disability is obviously under intellectual disability, not in learning disability. Take note class that intellectual disability and learning disability is different. Because when we say intellectual disability, it means that the learners may have difficulty with communication, social skills, self-care, and independent living. While the learning with disability class, it refers to difficulties in specific academic areas like galisod siyag basa, galisod siyag math, galisod siyag any languages, or anything nga ga-involve og academics. Do you understand, class? Okay, very good. So, as you notice, we have three types of learners with difficulty with self-care. So, first, we have learners with developmental disabilities. These learners often have difficulty with self-care due to cognitive or physical limitations. So, examples aning learners with developmental disabilities include individuals with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, or autism. No? So these learners may require additional support, of course, and also assistance to develop their self-care skills and achieve greater independence in daily activities. So need gyud ang guidance sa ginikanan, no? Kay dili man gyud kaya sa usa ka bata o sa usa ka individual nga moatiman nga naay disabilities, no, nga moatiman sa ilaang kaugalingon. Second, learners with behavioral or emotional disorders. So these learners may struggle with self-care due to anxiety, depression, or trauma. They may lack motivations or have poor self-esteem, which can impact their ability to care for themselves. Okay, so mao ni sila ang mga learners with disabilities nga sensitive kaayo, no? Dali ra ma-depress, magka-anxiety. So kani nga mga individual nga naay behavioral or emotional disorders is angay gyud ni sila bantayan ng class. Kay di gyud ni sila kabalo mo control silang kaugalingon, di kabalo mo control silang emotions, no? So dapat always na ang parents, na ang guardians, teachers, siblings, or even friends nga anda mo comfort sa ilaa, anda mo sabot sa ilang kahimtang. Kay dili lalim class nga naay ingon ani nga sickness. Wala na time mo atiman sa atong kaugalingon once the anxiety and depression ang moatake sa to, alright? So again, dapat ipa-feel nato sa ilaa nga they are special, worth it sa atong love, and then we should love them unconditionally. Treat them as normal people, no? Dili kay abusaran or i-discriminate. Third, learners with physical disabilities. So these learners may have mobility issues, weakness, or paralysis, which can make it difficult for them to perform self-care tasks independently. From the word physical disabilities. So, dili nila kaya ang mga butang nga ga-involve og strength, no? Like mismo pag-ilis, mismo pagsudlay, ga-involve din nag-strength. So dili nila na kaya buhaton. So need gyud gihapon ang guidance sa parents. So now, let's proceed to the characteristics of learners with difficulty with self-care. First, we have poor grooming or hygiene habits, such as infrequent bathing or brushing teeth. Walay maayo nga postura, walay nahibaw-an nga mga proper hygiene, dili wala nagamit og mga proper hygiene. So children with intellectual disability class, maglisod man gyud nag-atiman sa ilang kaugalingon, no? Mismo ang mga simple nga butang like pagkaligo, maglisod gyud na sila perform, na ay limitations man gud ang ilang paglihok. Dili gyud sila parehag ability sa mga normal people nga kaya tanang butang, right? So again, guidance, support, understanding, and patience of the parents are very important gyud para na ay proper hygiene ang ilang anak. Second, difficulty with dressing or undressing such as struggling with buttons or zippers. Okay kani, simple ra kay nga butang pero lisod kini sa ila class. Imagine kana biyang magtangtang kag batunis or mag-zipper ka ga required binag strength. No, so maglisod man gyud sila ana. So need gyud gihapon ang guidance sa ginikanan. Third, lack of awareness of personal safety such as not understanding the dangers of hot surfaces or sharp objects. Okay kani, kulang og kahibalo sa unsay makadaot og dili, makasamad ba ni or dili nga butang. So as a parents, dapat everyday nato sila tudluan og unsay makadaot og dili para aware sila. Naman gud gihapon ni sila pagsabot class, no? Bisag na sila yung disabilities, makasabot na sila o kanunayon lang po natong ipa-remind sa ilaa. Fourth, inability to manage time effectively, leading to lateness or missed appointments. Dili kabalo mo time management. So dapat yun na ay guidance sa ginikanan yun gihapon. Required yun ang guidance sa ginikanan class. Wala man na sila ipakigod unsa ng orasa, unsa na dira. So guidance is the key yun, no? So the last one, we have dependence on others for basic self-care needs such as getting dressed or preparing meals. Okay, sama sa kong gingon ganina, kani sila is dili ni sila kabalo mustan sa ilang kaugalingon. Kay syempre, nagud sila differential. They have disabilities. So again, balik-balik na ko pagsulti, patience and guidance sa ginikanan are very important. Sa mga anak na intellectual disability or any types of disability, it really required patience, good, and understanding. So now let's proceed to the identification of learners with difficulty with self-care. So first, observation and assessment. Teachers, caregivers, or family members can observe the learner's daily self-care routines and note any difficulties or concern. Second, medical evaluation. A medical evaluation can help identify any underlying physical or cognitive conditions that may be contributing to the learner's self-care difficulties. Okay, so importante ang medical evaluation class for us to easily identify if asa siya dapit na ay diferensya ug syempre asa ginikanan aware ta ug unsa dapat ang atong angay buhaton sa paghandle sa atong anak nga naay ingon ani nga case, no? Aware ta sa mga do's and don'ts, like mga pros and cons. Okay. So fourth, standardized tests and assessments. So there are many standardized tests that can be used to evaluate a learner's self-care abilities, such as the CATS Index of Independence in Activities of Daily Living. Okay, so CAT Index of Independence in Activities of Daily Living class, it is a tool. Tool ni siya used to assess an individual's ability to perform basic activities like kanang mga pagkaligo, no? To take care of themselves on a daily basis. Mga simple nga butang. Fifth is interviews and self-reports. Talking to the learner can help identify any specific self-care task that they struggle with and any underlying reason for their difficulties. So, importante kaayo nga naamoy communication with each other. For example, you as a teacher and then students nga na intellectual disability with self-care or with communication, no? Dili ka maumo communicate. So as a teacher, dapat naakay communication sa imong student nga naay ingon ana nga disability para aware ka ug unsay angay nimong buhaton sa iya ug unsay angay nimong matabang sa iya para siya mo improve, para ma-improve siya, no? Then also, as a parents po, dapat sad aware ka kung unsa ang mga butang nga ginalisuddan sa imong anak para magabayan nimo siya, no? Para matudluan nimo siya sa saktong angay niyang buhaton. Okay? So, do you understand, class? Okay, thank you. So, over the years, various terms and definitions of intellectual disability have been proposed. So during the early times, the term idiot, from the Greek word meaning people who did not hold public office, have been used for those with severe cognitive deficits. Okay, so when we say idiot, means stupid or who is lack of intelligence. So dili gyud nato ma-deny ang kamatuoran class nga naa mang gyud ingon ani nga mga tawo nga dali ra kayo maka-judge gyud, no? Kung maglisod lang gani taog sabot, ingnon na dayon tagbugok, right? O maglisod lang gani tag construct og sentence, ingnon na taghina. So class, dili ta mo judge og dali sa atong isig ka tawo. If someone is struggling in speaking or have lack of physical strength, then we should not call them as idiot. Instead, we should help them to develop and enhance their weaknesses. Now, tabangan nato sila, dili nato sila itabangag duot, no? So, calling someone idiot is already bullying, class, and it can hurt someone's feelings. So, please, we must think first before we speak. Do you understand, class? Okay, thank you. So, in the 19th century, the term imbecile, from the Latin word for weak and feeble, was given as a label for at least severe degree of intellectual disability. So, when we say imbecile, meaning a stupid person, so grabe no? And it is from the Latin word for weak and feeble. Feeble means lacking of physical strength, walay kusog. For mild intellectual disability, the term feeble-minded and simpleton were used. So, feeble-minded class means mentally slow. When we say simpleton, means lack of common sense. So, grabe yun do. So, these terms were then used by professionals in medicine, psychology, and education to refer to intellectual disabilities. So, muna ilang ginatawag diay sa una. Although nowadays, kana nga mga labels are seen as inappropriate and stigmatizing. So, these terms were replaced by mental retardation, so which at that time was seen as more appropriate. So, gidisdan og mental retardation. When we say mental retardation, class, means it is a permanent condition which causes limitations in learning and adaptive functioning. So, mental retardation na ang term para dili ra kay siya ingon og offensive. So, in 2007, the American Association on Mental Retardation changed its name to the American Association of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, or AAIDD, consistent with the term intellectual disability, now deemed as more appropriate, by Heward Albert Morgan and Conrad, 2017. According to IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, defines intellectual disability as significantly sub-average general intellectual functioning existing concurrently with deficits in adaptive behavior manifested during the developmental periods, which adversely affects a child's intellectual performance. So, we have 3 criteria for diagnosis are specified. So first, we have significantly sub-average intellectual functioning. So it refers to a score of 2 or more standard deviations below the mean on a standardized intelligence test, or an IQ score of approximately 70 or lower. Second, significant difficulty with tasks for daily living or adaptive behavior. Third, deficits in intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior must occur during the developmental period, which differentiates intellectual disabilities with other disabilities of cognitive impairment such as traumatic brain injury, by Heward et al. 2017. Okay, so according to AAIDD definitions of intellectual disability specifies significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and adaptive functioning, which should occur before the age of 18 years. No? So there are 5 assumptions actually that are essential for understanding and applying these definitions. So first is limitations in present functioning must be considered within the context of the person's community environment with regard to age, peers, and culture. Okay, so for example, si Jisa na intellectual disability. Siyempre, mag-struggle jud siya og communicate sa laing tao. Pero when it comes sa iya ang family, she can communicate well. Ano man? It is because her family members understand her communication style. No, magets nila siya dayon. Like sa laing tawo, lisod siya masabtan or makakuspod nga ibuli lang siya, no? So second, valid assessment considers cultural and linguistic diversity as well as differences in communication, sensory motor, and behavioral factors. O kani. For examples, a person may have difficulty using language to communicate, but she or he may be able to communicate through gestures. So naman yun ingon ana nga case, no? So dapat kita, we should respect that. Dili na to katawan or bulihon despite our differences, because we are all humans who have emotions. So third, limitations often coexist with strength within the individuals. Kani. For examples, a person may struggle with academic tasks but may have excellent social skills. So yung mga yun na bitaw, examples ani is so kitang tanan namang gyud tay own and unique talents, no? So example, si Marites is maayo kay siya og academics pero lack siya social skills, like dili siya maayo makipag-communicate sa iya ang teachers, sa iyang classmates o sa mga taong nagapalibot siya. So naay advantage ug naa pud siya disadvantage. Fourth, limitations are described for the purpose of profiling an individual's needed support. Okay, so the last one is the life functioning of the person with intellectual disability will improve given appropriate personalized supports over a sustained period. For example, 1. A person who receives speech therapy or occupational therapy regularly. So, syempre, nagyud tay improvements nga makita siya, may-improve iyang communications and motor skills. Nasabtan? Okay, very good. So, that will be all my assigned topics. So, I hope that you learned a lot in my discussion. So, now, I will give the virtual floor to Mr. Orate.
So, this is the continuation of the report. So, according to APA or American Psychiatric Association, defines intellectual disability as deficits in general mental abilities, including reasoning, problem solving, planning, abstract thinking, judgment, academic learning, and learning from experience. So, etiology causes of intellectual disabilities. So, intellectual disabilities can have a wide range of etiologies. These could include innate factors and environmental factors. So, unsa man gyud ang innate factors of environmental factors? So, first is innate factors. Ang innate factors is genetic and biological. So, which means which an individual has no control of. Like example, so Down syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, and Fragile syndrome. So, the next one is environmental factors. This includes the toxins or teratogens, which can often be prevented. So, pwede siya ma-prevent. However, the innate factors is, kung gito siya kining, kung to is biological, so inborn, na siya nga disabilities. So, examples is substance use, abuse of illicit drugs, lead-based pain, birth trauma to complicated deliveries, and other health problems and injuries such as nutritional deprivation or encephalitis or meningitis. So we move now to characteristics of learners with intellectual disabilities. So the following are characteristics of learners with intellectual disabilities in terms of cognitive, adaptive behavior, causes and challenging behavior, and positive attributes. So first is cognitive functioning. So we have here learning rate. Children with intellectual disability acquire new knowledge at rate well below that of typically developing children, because students with learning disabilities learn more slowly than their peers. Some educators assume that instructions should be allowed down to match their lower learning rates. However, students with intellectual disabilities, just like their peers without disability, benefits from participating in lively peace. Then we have here memory. So memory, they have difficulty remembering information, especially those with more severe impairment. Some students have difficulty in working memory or the ability to remember. So, mo siya ang memory. Then, the third one is attention. They typically attend slower or relevant features of a learning task than students without disabilities. They often have difficulty keeping attention on learning tasks. This results to the other problem, including difficulties in acquiring, remembering, and generalizing new knowledge and skills. Then the fourth one is generalization and maintenance. So they have difficulty in transferring or generalizing new learned knowledge and skills to setting or situation that differ from condition where they learn to the skills. And the last one is motivation. Some students lack interest in learning or participating in problem-solving tasks. Some develop learner helplessness, in which one repeated experience or failure result to expectation of failure regardless of effort. Some also develop outer directedness, in which an individual distrusts one's own response to situations and rely on others for assistance and solutions. Then we move now to adaptive behavior. So, self-care and daily living skills. So, direct instructions and environmental support such as added prompts and simplified routines are important in ensuring that limitation in their adaptive areas do not severely affect their quality of life. Those with less severe intellectual disabilities can benefit from training its self-management skills in order to achieve levels of performance needed to live independently and to have successful employment. And we have here social relationship. So their poor communication skills, inability to recognize others' emotional states, and unusual or inappropriate behaviors can result to social isolation. It is important to teach them appropriate social and interpersonal skills. Then we have here the behavioral excesses and challenging behavior. Students with intellectual disabilities are more likely to exhibit behavior problems than those without. For instance, they may have difficulty accepting criticisms, limited self-control, and bizarre and inappropriate behavior such as aggression or self-injury. And we have here also the positive attributes, the last one. So individuals with intellectual disabilities may display tenacity and curiosity in learning, and have good relationship with others and positively influence other individuals around them. So that's all the report, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you again for listening in our discussion about the types, characteristics, and identification of learners with difficulty with self-care. Have a nice day. Bye!